So good day, everyone. Good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you're in the world. Welcome to another Power BI section brought to you by UrBizEdge. So for today's session, I'll be taking a topic on time intelligence using DAX, and the presenter will be myself, Temidayo Omoniyi. This session is brought to you by the collaboration between Enterprise DNA and UrBizEdge. So for some of you that want to know about Enterprise DNA, they're a training company in the United States. Their main focus is empowering Power BI users to change the world. They're also a training company in the United States to deal with Power BI and Power Automate and also Pythons. As you all know, we're also a training company in Lagos, Nigeria. We also have branches in Abuja, Port Harcourt, and Lagos. So for our upcoming training, this is the calendar. So on the 7th of March, we'll be having Python for data analysis. On the 10th of March, we'll be having in-depth Excel training, executive dashboard, and business data analysis. On the 14th of March, we're having the same thing, which is Excel, in-depth Excel training, executive dashboard, and business data analysis. So I'll just give you a brief about my profile. I'm a Microsoft certified data analyst who specializes in data, business data analysis, business intelligence, and also data science with over 3 years combined experience. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I also have passion in sharing knowledge and mentoring young data analysts, and also develop custom solution in Microsoft Office. I'm currently the team lead for data and business analyst for UrBizEdge. I enjoy creating educative content on UrBizEdge YouTube channel and other platforms. So you can find me also on Microsoft forums. I enjoy writing codes and automating different business processes using the Microsoft Power Automate and also Python. So I'll start this section right about now. So I'll stop sharing my screen for a second. And let me just open my camera so I won't have any lagging. Okay. So I'll share my screen right now. So can you tell me if you just put in chat box if you can see my screen so I'll know everyone is the same. So can you see my screen? Can I ask, can you see my screen? Can I just confirm? Can you see my screen? Okay, yes, okay. Thank you, Oladimeji. Okay, so time intelligence is actually a very, very important part in for you being a data analyst. When you're creating calendars, you're dealing with intelligence, different things. So I'll just talk about time intelligence and the importance of it. So a calendar table in DAX. So in Power BI or in data analysis, you can create calendar tables in 3 ways. You can either use the DAX, which stands for data analytics expression, or you can use Python, or you can also use the Power Query. So for today, I'll be showing you how to do all the time intelligence using DAX. So a calendar table is basically a table that contains a list of dates and associated information such as year, month, day, week, number, quarter. In DAX formula, calendar table are frequently used for time-based computation and analysis, right? So some of the importance of having a calendar table as a data analyst is basically data analysts can perform a variety of time-based calculation using a calendar table, including year-to-date, sales, rolling average, month-over-month growth, and also the rest, right? A visual calendar that shows data across time can be made using the calendar table. When analyzing time-based data, it's also used when analyzing time-based data. For data model can also be linked to the calendar table to get real-time data and also some specific information. Lastly, calendar table offers a consistent way to define time interval like week. Most time you used to do week over week, month over month, and also by quarters. This helps to prevent confusion and data error by ensuring that all analysts are utilizing the same time period when performing computation and other analysis. Okay, so I'll go to the next sheet. It's called pages actually in Power BI. In Excel, it's called a sheet, but in Power BI, I'll call it a page, right? So I'll go to the next page. So in DAX, right, which stands for data analytics expression, you can create calendar in 2 ways. You can either use the calendar function, which I will explain, or you can also use the calendar auto, right? So for the calendar auto, what it basically does, if you look at what I wrote here, right? For the calendar auto, what it does is that it returns a table with single date that is made up of a continuous range of dates based on information in the model and range. So what this one basically does is, if I put a calendar auto, right, it goes through my entire data and picks for me what date should be my start date and what date should be my end date. right? So that's how the calendar auto works. So you can see the syntax over here, right? Just put equals to calendar auto and just put the date. You pick a date column, that's all. And also for the calendar function, this is what I use a lot. I prefer using the calendar function, right? So for the calendar function, it's a single date column that's made up of continuous range. The range of dates are inclusive that has 2 date interval. Both times you can either specify the start date or the end date. So how it works is, for you being a data analyst, right? When you're creating a calendar, every calendar has a start date, it also has an end date. So if I say equals to calendar, so every calendar has what they call a start date. I also have what we call the end date, right? End date. So these are the major forms. These are the major functions when I did on calendar, because everything has a start, also everything has an end. So most times, if you are creating something like this, you can either use. So most times represent the start date. Start date. Most times people represent as what they call the minimum date, right? Minimum date. And we can also represent the end date as our what? As our maximum date, right? So that's how we do it most of the time. But I'll show you how to do all of that. So the next sheet I'll be going to, which is the next page. So let's create a calendar. But first of all, I want you guys to understand the whole concept of creating a calendar table. Let me see. Okay, I want you to understand the whole concept of creating a calendar table. So what I'll do now, open my Excel for you. So the concept, one of the things I tell people is that for you to be very good with DAX, you have to be good with Excel, because basically DAX is just Excel functions, it's just a little bit of syntax and all. Like things like some product is called SumX in DAX. Things like sum if count if we use the calculate function, right? So let's just create I'll just show you how calendar tables are being created on Excel. So we'll now move everything to Power BI. So let me show you an instance. Let's say I'll create a column. The first column should be the date. That's a date type. Date type. The next one should be my outputs. And I'll just name this one as my formula. Okay. So all the things I'm looking for, I want to get the date, right? That's today's date. I get today's date. I can't say date itself. I'll get the date. I'll get the year. I'll get the month number. So all these things I'm going to do in Excel, I'm going to replicate the same thing inside of my DAX. I also want to get the month name. I want to get a week number. Let me increase my screen a little bit so you guys can see very well. Okay, cool. I want to get the week number. Which other things I want to get again? Day, month, name. I can also get the day. That's day number. Day number. I can also say get the day of the week, like the actual date itself. I want to get the date and time. I'll get an hour. So now I'm going a little bit into time intelligence also. I'll get a minute and seconds. So I'll just stop for this part. Seconds, right? Okay, awesome. Okay, so let me just increase this a little bit so you guys can see better. Okay, and let me try not too much. Okay, let me just I like adding color sometimes. Okay, I think it's cool enough. I'm just add a borderline to everything and I'll continue. Just give me a couple minutes. Okay, I say if none, if I say formula text. I want to be seeing all the formulas I'll be writing so you guys can see it over here. Right, straight none. So I'll put an if none error. So I say if none. So if the function is a non-value that's not available, just give me a blank. Okay, cool. So let me just drag it down for everything. Okay. So now let's start together, right? I want to get to this date. So today's date is what? Equals to today, right? In Excel, just say equals to today. Today gives you today's date, right? I want to get the year. So I want to get the year of today. We all know we're in the year 2023. So how would I get the year of today? All these things I'm doing here in Excel, we're going to replicate the same thing inside of DAX, right? So I want to get the year of today. I say equals to what? My year of this date over here. There's my bracket, 2023, right? I want to get my month number. You can see we're in month number 3, which stands for what? Match. So I'll say equals to month number of what? My today's date over here. So I say month number of today's date, close my bracket, enter. Right. So next now to get the month name. I know why March. Okay, so there's something we do in data analysis. Some of you use this a lot when you're doing your custom formatting, right? So if I take today's date as today's date is, let me just copy this date over here. If I put today's date here, right? If I put, there's a terminology we use in data, right? So let me just show you guys. Let me reduce the size here. So for today's date, if I put D, this stands for D, right? It's going to give me what? 5. Today's date is 5, right? If I put DD, it's going to give me what? 05. If I put DDD, right? It's going to give me what? Sun. That's the short form of Sunday. If I put DDDD, that's the 4D itself. It's going to give me the full Sunday, right? If I put M is going to just give me 3, right? Why March, right? If I put MM is going to give me 03. Sorry, 03. If I put MMM, I hope nobody here did MMM. It's going to give me match, right? That's like a short form of match. If I put 4M, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's going to give me the full match itself. Likewise, the same thing with year. So Y stands for year, M stands for month, D stands for day. So if I put 1Y, it's going to give me 23. If I put YY, it's going to give me what? 23 also. But if I put YYY, it's going to give me 2023. If I put 1, 2, 3, 4, I put 4Y, it's going to give me what? 2023 also, right? So now with this method, it helps you to actually helps you to custom your data, do all these custom dates and the rest. So this process here we did just now. If I was doing the same process in DAX, I use the function called, I use the function called formats. I use what they call formats, right? So formats, I use format for DAX. But if I'm doing it inside of Excel, I use what they call the text. So text is for Excel functions itself. So you can see there's so much similarity between Excel and Power BI. What you do in Excel, you can also replicate the same thing in Power BI. So mind you, I said if I'm trying to custom my date, I can use the format function in my DAX. I'll use the text function in in Excel, right? We have a lot of things to do today, but I'm just taking it step by step. So now to get the date, the month name, I know I'm a month March. So I want to get the name in full. So I'll use the text function. I'll say equals to text. The value now is asking for the value. The value should be the today's date, which is this date over here, comma. There's asking now for the format text, the format type. I'll put a double quote because I want to be a month, right? The full month. I'll put MMMM, double quote, close my bracket, enter, right? Cool. So now I want to get the week number next, right? So week number is just the same thing as equals to week. There's a function called week number in Excel. Week number. It's also available in Power BI also. So week number of today's date, close my bracket, enter. So we're in week 10, right? But it just showing me 10. What my situation I want it to be showing me what? Week 10. So I want to just add the text to the formula. So I'll put a double quote here. I'll say week space double quote, and I do my concatenate using the ampersand and, right? Enter. So you can see now we're in week 10. So now let's get the day numbers. I can say equals to day of what? Of today itself. Right? Cool. You show what today's date is 5, right? So let's get, are we on a Sunday, Monday, Saturday? So I can also say text, equals to text of this, right? Text of today's date, double quotes, and on the day full, D, double quote, close my bracket, enter. Okay. So if I scroll down, I want to get the date and time itself. I can say equals to now, right? So now it gives you both date and time, right? So that's one of the things when you're building projects or you're doing things like agent reports, you use a lot of dates, a lot of today, a lot of now, and the rest, right? I want to get my hour of now. I can also use the function equals to hour, right? Hour of now. I cannot use hour of today because today does not have what date in it. It does not have time in it. I can only use what hour of what now. So I'll pick the now over here. I'll close my bracket. I'll say enter. So let me scroll down a little bit. So for the minute now, say equals to minutes, minute of now. And for the second, equals to second. Don't use sec, so it's equals second of what now, right? And that's all. I can also do things like e-date. E-date stands for estimated date. You can also do EU months and some other things because of time. So let's replicate this now inside of our DAX. So this is our first thing we're going to do now. So I'll go back to my Power BI. So I'm in my report view. So you have your report view, you have your data view, you have your model. So I already have a data already here. So if I go to my data view, I have some data here. Some different three data table. I have my branch data, I have my sales data, and also have my sales targets. I've actually linked all of them. I've done all my data modeling and everything, but because of time, I can't start doing transformation and everything. I'm just dealing today with more time intelligence itself. So I'll come here. So I'm in my data view, right? So now I want to create a new calendar table, right? I want to create a new calendar table from scratch. So from this data view, can you see table tools? Can you see new table? So I click on new table. Please, if you have any question, just drop it in the chat box. So for my new table, I'll change this one here over to dates, right? Dates. Okay. So remember, I told you there are two ways of creating calendar tables in DAX. You can use the calendar auto. You can also use the word calendar function. So let me just show you how the calendar auto works. I say calendar auto. So for the calendar auto, what it does basically just looks at your entire data. It scans all the data available in your Power BI and it picks the lowest date and the highest date for you. So if I just say calendar auto and I press enter, right? You can see, right? It just scanned through the entire data for me by picking the lowest date and the highest date. And this is showing me as date and time. So I can click on the header here, the column header, and I can change it from date and time towards date only. So I say date only, right? So that's cool. So this is for calendar auto. How about if I want to now use the calendar function? So let me change it to calendar function now. Calendar function. Remember, I told you the calendar function has two formulas, right? Which is what? My start date. If you look at it very well, I have my what? I have my start date. I also have what? My end date. So usually your start date is when you're starting your calendar, and the end date is when the end date, that's the last date. But if you know your calendar will be growing day by day by day, you can also use as your end date, you can use what they call today. So what I mean by that is, I can say my calendar day should be my minimum. That's the minimum of this data here. So currently, right, I'm using the data that has date is my sales data. Let me show you something. So if I go to my sales data here, right, I have a table. This is my sales data table here. It has a date column over here. You can see it has a date column over here. So what I want to do now to create a calendar table based on what my sales data date itself. This date itself. You get. So I'm going to create a calendar table based on this date where I'll be picking two things. I'll be picking the minimum of the sales data dates, and at the same time I'll also be picking the maximum of the sales data date. Yeah. So those are the two things I'll be picking from this sales data table. So now let's start now. So I'll go back to my date over here. Remember, this date is, I use calendar auto. So I want to change from calendar auto to the normal calendar function. I say calendar, right? I'll put my bracket. My start date, I'll say my start date should be the minimum date of my sales data date, right? So I say minimum, that's mean of what? Of my sales data date. Can you see? Close my bracket. I say comma. Now it's asking me for the end date, right? So if you are creating a kind of calendar, you know there's going to be growing each day. I can just use today's date. So today's date will just basically give me today. Okay. So you know that, okay, by tomorrow the date will keep growing over a longer period of time. You can use today. But since already now I already have a static data, which is my sales data. I just only want to pick the minimum date of my sales data date. So I just say, sorry, the maximum date rather. I say max of my sales data date. I close my bracket and I close my bracket again and I press enter. Okay, so that is loaded. Let me check if there's any question. Okay, no question. Awesome. Now you can see, right? So this calendar, this is my first column. My first column is based on my date itself, which I picked it from what? The minimum date of my sales data date. I also did what? The maximum date of my sales data date. So I'll create another column now, right? The same way we did it in Excel. I'll repeat the same thing now inside of what? Power BI. I'll say new column, right? So I'll say the first column should be year. So for the year, I'll say year of what? I'll say date of dates, right? That's date of date. Remember, why is it showing me date of date? Look at this very well, right? Why they show me date of date is that, remember when I was creating a calendar, I made the variable name dates. That's the column name. So the column name, the table name is dates. And also the column here is also date. I see, this is the date here. This is the column here. This is the column name. And when I was creating my calendar, I used what? Date equals to calendar. So show me what? Date of dates. So the table name is dates. The column name is what? Also dates. That's saying date of dates. You get? So I say date of dates, right? Enter. Right? So the idea for calendar table just gives you more flexibility. I can also create a new column again. So I can be picking all the things I want to see. Let's say I want to see the month number. So the month number will be what? Month of what? Dates of dates itself. Right? So this gives me the month number. I'll create a new column again. And I'll say the next one should be my month name. So month name. I remember for the month name in Excel, I used what? I used the text function. And I told you that it's called text in Excel, but it's called format in what? Power BI. So I say the format of what? The value. Now it's asking me for what value? The value is my date of dates. Right? That's this column over here. Then comma. It's asking me now what format? The format, I put my double quotes. I'll say MMMM, double quote, close my brackets, enter. And you can see, very easy. Let me just add some few more information. Let's add another column. So the next column I want to get now should be, let's say week number. We did week number the other time also. I said week number. So my week number should be the same way, week number. We also have weekday. Weekday just give you the 7 days of the week. So week number of what? Date of date, right? Enter. I say week 1, week 2, but I just show me 1, 2, 3. So let me put week in front of it. The same way we did in Excel, double quote, week, space, double quote, and I use the ampersand and to concatenate. Press enter. I can see whatever you can do in Excel can also be replicated in what? Power BI. I say new column again, right? And from, let's also get quarter also. I say quarter. So there's also a function called quarter. If I say QU, I say quarter of what? Date of dates itself, right? Enter. I know we have 4 quarters, quarter 1, first quarter, second, third, and fourth. So let's put the text quarter in front of it. I say double quote QTL space double quote ampersand and enter. You can see, right? Let me add 2 more columns again. So the columns give me like more intelligence and everything. You guys may have asked me, why am I doing month number? I'm also doing month name. I'll show you the reason why very soon. So let's say 2 more columns also, right? I'll say the next one, I want to get my year months. My year months, I'll use the format date of date, double quotes, year month will be 1, 2, 3, 4 right? Okay, awesome. And the last column I want to get for today is going to be month, year. Same, month, year. Okay, I say the format of dates, right? And I say double quotes. For the month, I'll say MMMYY, double quote, close my brackets, enter, right? Okay, awesome. So there's one more thing you need to do. So when you're creating a calendar table, right? If you ever use calendar in pivot table, you know there's something called, it has this hierarchy in it that it breaks it down from the dates, it gives you the year, it gives you the quarter, it gives you the month and the day. So I don't want that to be an hierarchy, because right now you can see the date column is actually an hierarchy. If I click on this drop down, you can see I have what? Date hierarchy. You can see I have year, quarter, month, day. I don't want that. So what I can do now, one of the principle of using DAX is I have to mark this as a what? As a calendar table. That's as a date table. So I have to mark this date here. This particular column, which is the same thing as this column over here, I have to mark it as a date table. Okay. So what I will do now is one of the rules in DAX. So I'll come to this column header here. I can right click, or you can click on these 3 dots over here. Anyone prefer actually. You can see mark as date table. Can I see mark as date table? So I click on mark as date table and I select this and I change to what? Date. So you can see validated successfully, right? And I click on OK. And you see now the shape will change. And voila, the shape has what? Changed. I can see there's a question. Let me check. Yes, the recording will be made available, but what's fair? The recording will be definitely made available. So now I have the date table. Now I've already marked it as a date table. Now you can see, right? I have 3. Because I have my branch data, my sales data, my sales targets, and I also have created a new table which is called my dates table, which is for my calendar. So now the next thing I have to go to my modeling view. You can see this is my report view. This is where you do your visualization and designs. You have your data view. You can see your data. It gives you like this old Excel feeling, like a spreadsheet. And I also have my model view. This is where I create relationship and models. I can see that before this class, right, I've already done my data modeling before, right, because of time and everything. I've already created a relationship between these 3 tables already, which is my sales target, my branch data, and my branch data and my sales data. So these 3, I've created a relationship between these 3. But now I've already created a new table, which is what? My date table. I have to create a relationship between this date table and this main data here. I can remember when I was creating my date table, I used 2 conditions in my calendar. I used what? My start date. Look at, if I click on this, now you can see I said what? My start date and my end date. And I said my start date is the minimum of my what? My sales data date. And my end date is what's the maximum of my what? My sales data date. So when I was creating this calendar, I created the date table from what? My sales data date. So what I need to do is I need to create a relationship between my date table and my sales data date. So what I can do now, I can just drag this from date here and drop it here. That's created a relationship for me, you can see, right? And the name of the relationship is called what? Many to one relationship. If you want to understand the relationship better, you can just come to this manage relationship over here. And if I click on that, my date table, my sales data, this one over here, right? You can see the relationship here is showing me what? Many to one relationship. And the cross filter direction is what? Is single. Is single. That means only one part can filter one data and the other cannot filter. What I mean by that, if I close this and I close this, what this means is that the date table can filter the sales data, but the sales data cannot filter because why? The direction is just facing one direction, which is what? The sales data, right? So let me go back to my data view. If you look at this, my data view, you might ask yourself, Daya, when you create the month name, which is January, February, March, why do you also create a month year? It's not really making sense, right? So the reason why I did is, I'll show you the reason why I did this now. So if I go to my report view here, right? So let me open my visual pane. So anything else to do visualization, you go to your visual pane here, right? So let's say, for instance, I want to get let's just use a table, for instance, a data table. So matrix is the same thing as pivot chart. I'm sorry, pivot table in Excel. There's something called matrix over here. It's the same thing as pivot. It has the rows, the column, the values, and also filters and everything. Right? So if I open my date, you can see my date table here, right? If I drag that month name, where's that month? If I put my month name to my column here, right? Okay, so let me make it bigger so you can see what I'm talking about. If I increase the size now, what do you notice? You notice that normally the days of the week is what? The months of the year is what? January, February, March, April, May. But if you notice that, show me what? April, August, December, February, which is wrong. What's actually happening now is that Power BI is sorting it based on what? Based on alphabets. So it's sorting what from it's sorting what in ascending order, A to Z, which you don't want because of why? That's April is not the first month of the year. It's actually what's January. So let me go back to that same data view. So my data view, I can see this my month name over here. I can also do what? My month number. For month number, I know that 1 stands for what? January. 2 stands for what? February. 3 stands for what? March. So what I can do now is I can click on this, my month name, and I'll go to what sort by column, and I'll pick what. So I want to sort this month name by my month number. So if I'm sorting by my month number, it's going to do what? So if it's taking one will be what? January. If it's taking two will be what? February. So if I sort it by what? My month number, which is what? My month number over here. And okay, so I've sorted it. So let me go back to my report view. And can you see that it has changed? January, February, March, April, May, up till December. Awesome. So let me just remove this. Okay. So let me do the same thing now. So if I go to my what is my year month? So my year month, right? So sorry, my month here rather. I put my month here inside my column over here. You've noticed too, the same thing is actually happening here. If you can see very well, it's also picking April, August, December. So I have to fix this one also, right? So I'll go to my data view also. I'll pick on my my month here. So I'll sort my months here by what? My year month. So that's the reason why I created this column. These columns are like more like upper columns for me. It helps me to sort the data better. So I pick on my month here and I say sort by column, year, month. Sort by column, year, month. Right? And if I go back to my table, I can see now it has arranged back, right? You show me what? January, February, March, and it's working perfectly well. So that's for that. So the next thing now to do now, if I go to my data view, because we have a lot of things we're going to do today, right? We're going to do things like year over year, last period, some other things. So if I go to my data view, right? If I go to my sales data, which is my sales data over here, if you look at my sales data over here, if you look at my sales data over here, I have what? I have my unit price, I have my quantity, I have my discount. I want to calculate the total amount sold, right? If I was going to calculate the total amount sold for this scenario, if I was going to calculate the total amount sold, since I already have my unit price, I have quantity, I have my sales discount, I can say total amount sold, right? It would be, if I was writing this in DAX, right? I'll use what they call the sum product function. There's a function called the sum product function. Sum product function is the same thing as sum x in Excel. So what they call the sum x in DAX is the same thing as the sum product in Excel. Let me show what I mean by that. So if let me just open my Excel, let me show you. Let's do like a random data. I have something like this. I have price and also have quantity, right? Okay, so I have random price. Let's have random price. Let me just reduce the size a little bit so you can see better. I have random price here now. I have random price. I have random price between 1 million. That's 1 exponential 6 to 1 billion. Can I say between 100,000 to 1 million? That's 1 exponential 5 to 1 exponential 6, right? And I have quantity between, let's say between 50 to 100. That's round between 50 to 100, right? So if I was going to calculate the total amount sold now, total amount sold, let me just make this static because these are still dynamic. So I Control C, I'll paste as a value, right? Okay, awesome. Let me increase the size a little bit. So, okay, so let me just create a little bit of border. Okay, take a border. Cool. Okay, so now if I was going to calculate the total amount sold, I would have said what? I would have said equals to what? Price times what? Quantity, right? It gives me everything, and I say what? The sum of everything, and this gives me the sum of everything here, right? As if I was going to do it this way, using the normal multiplication sign, this was going to be the output value, right? But now I don't want to use this method. Rather, I want to use another method which is faster. The method is called what? The sum product in Excel. I say equals to the sum product. It has different conditions. You can see condition 1 is my array 1. I select the entire array of my price, comma. Condition 2 is my what? Array 2. I select the entire array of my what? Quantity. Close my bracket, enter. You can see it's giving me the same thing. So this process I did is called a sum product in Excel. So in DAX, it's called what? Sum X. So let me go back to my Power BI. And I'll create a new measure table. So I'll go to Home. I'll go to enter data. So one of the advantages of using measure table is that it helps you in such a way that I can store all my formulas in a single measure. You get, I can store multiple formulas in a single measure. So I can name this as my, okay, let me say my measure table actually. Let's say measure table, right? And you can also manually enter data in Excel, in DAX, sorry. So I click on load and it's taking time. Okay. Okay, it's applying just a couple of minutes. And okay, yeah. So you can see, right? Measure table. So let me create a measure. Let me create a measure. So in DAX, you have three types of calculation right in DAX. You have the first calculation, which is called the measure. That's the calculated measure, sorry. Calculated column. We have calculated columns. We have calculated table. And we have calculated measures, right? So these are the types, these are the three kinds of DAX you write most times when you're using what? Power BI. These are the three DAX you write most of the time, right? The main types of DAX you write in DAX function. Okay, so for this one now, you remember when we're creating the calendar table, we did what we call a calculated table. So now let's now create a calculated measures. So one of the ideas of measure table measures is just basically it helps you save space. If you're dealing with if I'm creating new columns all the time, it's going to help my work to be more efficient. So that's one of the efficiency in using Power BI. So I go to my measure table, which is over here. If I expand, you can see nothing is here apart from my column 1. I right click and I say new measure. So measure tables are basically measures inside of a cell. So I can rename this now to my total amount DAX, right? My total amount DAX. Remember, I used it in Power and Excel. I use what they call sum products. In DAX, it's called what? Sum X. I say my sum X is asking for the table now. Remember, I have to calculate the price, the quantity, and the sales discount. And I have those calculations inside of my sales data. So I say my sales data, comma, right? Now it's asking now for what calculation how to do. I'll say what? My price, that's my unit price times my quantity, my unit sales data quantity times open bracket 1 minus discount, right? Why am I using 1 minus discount? The discounts are in what decimal places. So I close my bracket, I also close my bracket again. I say enter, and voila, that's it. So I can remove this column because I don't need this column 1 anymore. So I can just come here, I can say delete from model. Yes, delete from model. And you can see it has moved up. So it's giving like a calculator sign. So if I go back to my report view now, I can say, okay, for each of the months here, let me see the total amount sold by the month here, individual month here. And you can see, right? So this is how the data is going to come out. So let me make it a column chart so you can see it better. Okay, cool. Okay. So you can see this, right? So we've done our calendar table. We've created some little bits of formulas, right? So the next thing I want to do now, let's talk about things like variance, things like month over month, things like year over year, and the rest, right? So if I go to the next page, right? So let's talk about the month over month variance. This is actually very, very important if you are doing things with time intelligence. So I'm trying to compare for each month. Most times people call it percentage change, right? I'm trying to compare for each month. What is my value? What am I making each month? Am I making a loss or am I making a gain, right? So I've done the total amount sold, which was the calculation I did here already. So I want to also calculate a function which is going to get me the total sales of last month, right? I'll get the total sales of last month, right? I also do another formula which is going to give me the total variance. So to get the total variance, you say what your total sales minus your previous month sales. That's how you get your variance. When we're in school, we used to do variance, right? That's change over what do you call it, new over old and stuff like that. And the last one, we don't get our percentage variance. Okay, so let's go to the next page. So what I'll do now, create a new measure. All right, click, I'll create a new measure. Right. So let's say how to get the total sales of last month. right? I want to get the total sales of last. So I say last month sales, right? So to get the last month sales, I can use the calculate function. So calculate function is actually one of the best formulas in it's one of the most powerful formula in DAX. You can mix it with different things. You can mix it with filters and so many other things. I can say calculate the expression. I already have my expression, which is my total amount sold, right? Comma. Just asking me now what filter did I want to use. So there's a function in DAX called date add. So date add can either make me go date add can make me go, am I going a year ahead or am I going a year behind? You get, so I can use date add to, it can either give me back date for me, or you can also do what, go forward for me. So I can say date add, right? So it's asking me that what date am I looking for. I'll use the date of date table, comma. It's asking me at what interval. So I want to get what, last month. Last month means what, my previous month. So I'll say a -1, right? Comma. It's asking me what interval. The interval I'm looking for a month. So I'll just say my month, close my bracket, and I close my bracket again, and I press enter. Right? Awesome. So let's check this out now. So let me create a new table so we can compare, and we can compare with, all of us can compare together, right? Okay. Let me just reduce this size a little bit. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so what I will do now, I'll go to my date table. I'll put my month here in my first column, right? Let me increase the size a little bit so we all can see it together. So I'll increase the size a little bit. If you have any question, please put it in the chat box, right? I'll increase the size a little bit so we can all see it together. And the next one I'll add is my total amount sold. I'll put it here, right? And see my total amount sold, right? For each month, these are the money they sold, right? And I'll now go to my, can see my last month sales. I'll put it underneath here. And you can see, right? So what this is doing now is, for my last month sales, what is giving me now is giving me what? It's giving me the previous month. So now for my last month sales for February, I can easily compare now. Okay, for my last month for February, I sold what? 488 million naira, right? So because it's giving me the previous month of my actual sales. If you look at this now, this is the actual sales here, right? This is the actual sales here. But now, the previous month now is not giving what? The previous month of your actual sales. So this one now, this one here is giving me what is what here. So that's what it's called previous month. This one here is what is here. You can see, right? So what is basically giving me, it's giving me the previous month, right? So that's how I get the last month. So you're basically trying to compare between last month and this month. So after you've gotten that, the next thing now to do, I want to now get a variance, to do a comparison now. I want to compare between my actual month and the previous month, right? So I can come here again, I can create a new column, sorry, a new measure rather. I'll create a new measure. So for my new measure, I can say this one should just be variance, right? So remember when we used to have this variance symbol? Let me just look for a variance symbol. I can use this as my variance. Okay, cool. Right? So for my variance, I can say variance should be my total amount sold, right? Minus what? Last month sales, right? Enter. Right? So if I come here now, if I put my variance value, let me click here. If I put my variance value underneath here, I can see the variance. It's giving me the variance now. Okay, you can see any place you see negative, means I made a loss, I made gain, I made loss, I made gain, I made losses. So now the next thing I want to achieve now, okay, I've seen my variance. Let me now get, okay, because I'm not dealing with numbers. I want to see what are the percentage of the variance, right? What are the percentage variance? So most times when we're in school, we used to do this calculation called percentage change. If you guys can still remember, right? Okay, let me just escape, then make this red. Okay, so how do you get a percentage change? It's just saying, so for percentage, okay, let me go back a little bit. So for percentage change, right, is basically what? Let me reduce the size a little bit. But percentage change is what is my variance. So you can say variance divided by what? The previous month. Right? But because of the way calculation works, if I use this / division, is some parts that there's empty, it won't work for me well. So rather than that, using that, I'll use the divide function in DAX. I'll say divide. So to get my variance system, I'll say divide, open bracket, my variance. You know, divide has two conditions. That's my numerator. It also has my what? My denominator, right? So my numerator, which is the upper one, is my variance, comma. My denominator will be my what? My previous month. You guys get? So I have my variance and my previous month. So let's now do that now inside of this formula now. So I will say to get my percentage variance now. Right? So I can say to get my percentage variance, right? Percentage variance. I can say divide. I can say divide the numerator. The numerator should be my variance. That's this variance I've created already, right? Comma. My denominator should now be my what? My previous month. That's last month sales. Close my bracket, enter. Right? Okay, awesome. So I can just drag this and I can put it over here. Right? So you can see, right? So it's giving me in decimal place. I can make it a percentage by just clicking on this and change it to what? Percentage. Right? And voila, you can see, right? So it just give me and you can see because I use the divide function, you can see that this part now, any part that is not value to divide by, it will be blank. Because this is blank because I use the divide DAX function. You can see over here, right? So the next thing I want to do now, because the way I did this, I'm just breaking it step by step so you guys can understand. But in a real life scenario, right? In a real life scenario, you have to mix all the formulas together. So mixing the formula together, the process is when you use what they call variables in DAX. So let me explain how variable works for you guys. So let's take, for instance, now let me create a new measure, right? Okay, but why that is good, let me just show you something. Let's say I'm doing a calculation now, and I say X should be 5. I say Y should be 4, right? And I say C should be what? X plus what? Y, which is what? So the C answer will be what? Will be 9, right? So the process of doing these two here, they are called what? Variables. They're called variables. Variables in calculation, right? Calculation. So that's how we use data when we're using maths back then in school. But if I was going to write variables in DAX, it's called var. So var is representation of variables in DAX, right? I hope you guys got a part. So let me go back to my screen. So now how will I go about that now? So I can just say, let me show you a simple, let's do a simple var, So I can say var y should be let's give it 4. Let's give it 4. Let me just put one more var again. Another variable, which is, let's give this one C. And that variable should be 0.2, right? So when I'm done with my variable, I can just say what? Give me the return. So the return should not be the output. The return will not be what? I can just say X times Y, right? And say, okay, I can also close my bracket here. Close my brackets here. I can say times C, right? And I press enter. Oh, okay, enter here. Okay, no issues. No issues. Okay. So now let me just show you in the card. So if I put this card here, that simple val I created, you can see the answer is what? 4.0. Oh, so just give me Q&A. 4.0, right? Okay. So that's how you just do a val. So let's now create a val now, a variable chart. So what I want to do now, all of this I did, the way I got my, when I was trying to get my percentage variance, I first got my last previous month and I got the variance difference and I got the percentage change, right? But this time around, right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put everything, I'm going to enclose everything in a single formula. So how will I go about it? I'll right click, right? I'll say new measure. So I'll say my percentage variance, val. That's what I'm going to use, right? And if I press enter, if I say for the first one, my first variable, I'm going to do last month sales val. Name that last month sales val should be equals to the calculate. Remember, I use the calculate function, right? Calculate what? My sales data, sorry, my total amount sold, right? My total amount sold DAX, right? Comma, and make it so you can see it better. Try to increase the size so you guys can see it better on my screen better. Okay, so now I'll say my, right? So it's asking me for the filter. That filter will be my date add. Date add. The date is on my date of dates, right? Comma. I want to go back 1 month. I'll say -1, comma, and give me the months of it, right? So after I've done this first step, the next step now is for my what? My return. So I say my return. So return is usually like your outputs. So what should be the return now? So my return should be what? Should give me that same divide I did right there. I said divide what? My so that's my last month sales, right? So I'll say my total sales. Okay, that's total amount sold. That's my total amount sold not working. Okay, just give me a minute, sorry. Say return, right? Return I'll say the divide, right? What am I dividing? I'm basically dividing. If I'm getting errors, okay, I think I didn't close. Oh, so I didn't close the bracket here. Yeah, that's why. Okay. Okay, so divide what? Now I have my previous months. I can just say my total amount sold DAX minus my LMS. I'll use, can see now I have to, can see this one as X here. This one is inside my variable. I'll pick this one over here, right? Close my brackets here. I can also open my brackets here. And I can say comma, right? So now my denominator should also be my what? My LMS variable, which is this one over here. And I close my bracket. Okay, and I press enter. I hope no issues. Okay, no issues. Cool. So let me come here now. You can see I just wrapped everything in a single formula, right? So let me come here now. So what I'll do now, if I pick this one over here, if I drag it here and I put it underneath here, and you can see that the same thing. Let me just change this to what? This one here to percentage. So I'll change this to percentage. Voila, you can see that the same thing. Okay, so the use case of this now, let me show you the use case. So if let me just okay, let me just delete the values here. So I have a column chart now, right? This is a column chart. So now I'm in a finance company. Now I'm trying to know how we doing month over month, right? So how am I going to do that now? Which is very easy. I think I've increased the size. That's why it's looking like this. Okay, how am I going to do that now? What I can do now is, for this my month over month val, I'll put it to my x-axis. Oh, sorry, to my y-axis rather. My y-axis. And I'll say for my x-axis should be my month Yeah, where's my months here? My months here for my calendar table. And voila, you can see, right? Okay, so let's make this better. Let me add a slicer to this. So I'll add a slicer so you can see it's much better. I'm just trying to rearrange all the shape, right? So if I rearrange this a little bit, if I drag this up a little and make this bigger. So for my slicer, let's do slicer based on year. So I'll add year to my slicer. So I'll go to year. I'll put it to my slicer here. Okay. I can also change it from between to a towel. So I'll change to a towel. So it just give me like a button kind of feeling. Awesome. Okay. So let's just pick for 2018, first of all. So you can see the way this thing is looking, right? I have different charts. This is a negative over here. So what I want to do now is whenever there's a negative, I want it to be red. And whenever there's a positive, I want it to be what? To be green. So I'll create a measure for that. Are you ready? So this I'm going to go about it, right? So I'll create a new measure, and the measure will be called color code measures. So I'll rename this to what? Color code measures, right? So for my color code, let me see if there's any questions. Okay, no questions. Awesome. For my color code measures now, I can say I can use an if statement actually. I can say if, right? If, so I have to do the logic. The way you use if in Excel, the way you use if in Python, you use the when clause in SQL, right? So if I say if the variance now, what's the variance now? If the variance val, right, is greater than 0, what should happen? I want the color to be green, right? So I can actually type the green color as a text. Else, if it should be what? It should be red. I close my brackets, enter. That's all. So now I have the color code variance, right? So I have to put the color code variance in my conditional formatting of this chart here. So if I click on this, my chart here, right? I go to my format your visuals. I go to columns. You can see the columns default color is what? Blue. I click on FX, right? So now for my format style, I'll change my format style to field values, right? So now ask me now, what field do you want to base this condition on? I'll pick the field value for my measure tables and I'll select color code measures, right? And I click on OK. And voila, you can see, right? So any place that is less than 0 is going to be negative. That means I made a loss in this period, I made a profit in this period, and it's going to give you the percentage. I can also change from 2019 to from 2018 rather to 2019. I can see now the charts are changing. It's now becoming more dynamic, right? I can also change also, yeah. Okay, awesome. Another thing you can also do is what they call the same period last year. There's another formula called same period last year. So I'll I'll create a new measure also for that. I can say I'm always way behind my time. A new measure, right? I can say, okay, calculate for me same period sales as a sales of same period previous year, right? So the same sales previous year, that same period last year, it's part of the intelligent function, data intelligent, time intelligent rather in DAX. I can say calculate, right? Calculate what? That's my sales, that's my total amount sold. The expression should be my total amount sold DAX, comma, the filter now should be what? My same period last year. The date now my date of date, right? Close my bracket, enter. Okay, so same period last year. I'm going to add it also to this table. Add it. Let me just put it beside this one here. I can see, right? So now it's not going to take, because I didn't do, it's taking the same period last year. So currently I'm in the year of what? 2019. So it's going to give me all the sales of what? 2018 in the table of 2019. If you look at this very well, let me reduce the size so you can see it better. So let me see values. Let me reduce the size a little bit. Let me increase this a little bit. Right, I'll reduce this a little bit. So you can see, right? It's giving me all the sales of last year. It's giving me all the sales of what? Of last year, right? So you can see this one is also the same thing as what? As this one over here. This is the same thing as this one over here. This is the same thing as this over here. You can see, so it's giving me the sales of last year. That's the previous year. And one way we can use it also, if I create a new sheet and click on a column chart, you can also do the year over year if you want to do that also, right? So I think I have one more formula to just show you guys and we'll be done. So same period last year goes to y-axis. My total amount sold also goes to my y-axis. So I'm trying to compare, right? Total amount sold DAX goes to my y-axis. And also let me just use the what do you call it now? My month year now. So I'll say my month year goes to my x-axis. So you can see the comparison, right? So it's giving me the same. Speaking of, show me now the data for last year. Same period last year. Same period last year. You can see, right? So that's going to show me. So now this one's here now is taking it. If I look at this is what, if I come here, if I come to this side here, same period last year, same period. So it's just going to give you it's giving you side by side when you are making profits, when you're making loss. So that's how the same period last year. If you want to see it better, I can also change this. Rather than me using months here, I can also use the year. So you can see better. Let me say year. And then, so you can see the comparison, right? Same period last year. So this one is 2020. This one now, you can see. So the one that is under that same period last year, this is the same period last year. You made more than the current year. So that's for same period last year. You can also do the variance and some other formulas you want to do. So last formula I'll be showing you is the total year to date, right? So if I create a new measure, right? I say total year to date DAX. Total year to date DAX. So there's a function called total years to date, right? So the expression is the total amount sold. That's my total amount sold DAX of my calendar day, which is my date of dates. And this one is very simple to use, right? And that's all for days. Okay, so if I come to this same, it's my table here. So let me add my total year to date on this table. So I'll put it beside my DAX. Yeah. So you can see this now. What is giving me now, right, is total year to date. What is giving now? If I add the sum of these two together, it's going to give me what is here, right? So now for my February, it's going to take, okay, for February now, all the money I've made from January 18 to February 18 is what? 922 million. So now for March now, it's going to tell me the March now will take what? Everything from year. For the March, it's going to take everything from what? From year to year. And it's going to give me this year. Can you see? So if you sum it together now, so this is how the total year to date works. So it's going to give all the summation till your previous year. So what I can do, let me just make it interesting. So I can just add a slicer. Yeah, let me put my year column, my year slicer. I like using tiles for year most of the times. I just prefer using tiles for years. I'll change the style from to tiles, right? Let me pick 2018. Okay, no, 20. Okay, yeah. Let's pick 2018 to be preferable that way. So you can see, right? You can easily see it better now. If you sum these two together, it's going to give you what this year. If you sum these three, 1, 2, 3 rows, this 1, 2, 3 rows, it's going to give you whatever it is in this one here. If I have your calculator, you can try it out, right? Okay, let me just use my calculator so you can see. Let's say calculator, right? So I won't really waste time. I'll say that's 488. I would have gone to Excel rather, but 635 310 plus 437 865 000. And you can see, right? 926. That's the 926. So that's how year to date works. It gives you all the sum up till today's date. So I think that's all for today. So any question, any question, any question, any question? Oh, if you have any question, please just drop it Wow, thank you. So if you have any question, just drop it in the chat box because I've actually gone way beyond time. I've really gone way beyond time. And also for some of you asking, the recording definitely will be made available. The recording will definitely be made available. So any question before we wrap up for today? Any question? Okay, someone is raising. Okay, I can see Ola Demeji. Okay, Ola Demeji. I'll make you a presenter so you can speak. So you can meet yourself, Ola Demeji.
No, the question is actually in the chat box. Somebody were asking, take for example, you are working with a financial year April to March instead of January, calendar year January to December. So how do we integrate that in the table? It's in the chat box.
Okay, I can't. Oh, okay. I need to see it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Temidayo, thanks. Okay. We're working in fiscal year, April to March. So what do you mean April to March? Is it like previous? No, that March comes before April. So is it like? Can you explain better when you say April to March?
Yeah, like April, the starting period of the previous year of the year, and March the following in the following year.
Yeah, that's where this calendar table comes to play. That's why I created this calendar table. So let's take for instance now. The best thing, so as I said, that's why the first thing I created. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen, sorry. The first thing I created was what? My calendar table. That calendar table is actually very important. It gives you flexibility. So let's take for instance now. Let me create the way you said now. Let's say April of last year up till today's date, which is March, right? So if I want to create that kind of calendar table now, when I have that calendar table like that, it will make it easier. So let's just say I'll create a new table. Just saying calendar, right? Can say I can use the calendar function, right? So now remember my stats year, right? So this time around, you said you want to go from previous year of that's last year April. I can use the function called date. You know, date has three conditions. It has my year, it has my month, it has my day. So my year should be last year date. Last year was what? 2020 what? 2, comma. The month is April. April should be what? 4, right? Comma. Then the date, like I say April, 1st of April, I can say 1. Close my bracket, comma. Now the end date, now you said up to today's date, right? So from last year up to today, which is March, I can also say what? Today. And I close my bracket. So my end date will now be what? Today. So it's going to create a calendar for me from last year, April, up to what? Today's date. So when I've gotten my calendar table, I can now start doing all the analysis. The way I created this variance and everything. Now I've already created the condition where I can see. Let me change this now to date only now. Let me say date only. Date only. Right? So you can see this now is taken from what? From April 20 what? 2022 up to today's date. If I go to the last date, you can see today's date is what? March of today. So now I can easily do all my variance, all my calculations and everything. So with that, it makes it easier for you to do that. I hope I was able to answer your question because we're way behind time. Okay, thank you. Let me check. So was I able to answer your question?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So with the main thing is that calendar table. That's why I actually explained calendar table from Excel. I also explained it in what Power BI. And also there's no difference between Power BI and Excel. If you're very good with Excel formulas, everything is the same thing. The whole Power Query we use in Excel is also available in the whole Power Query we use for data transformation in Power BI. It's the same Power Query we use in Excel. The whole DAX everyone is always clamoring about. It's also the same DAX we use in Excel. It's called Power Pivot. The data modeling, you can also do data modeling instead of Power Pivot using DAX. So let me see any question before we round up this section. Good. Okay, yeah, the session will be made available. Oh, thank you for your question. Ola Demeji. Yeah, I'll drop the link to the video also. Okay, just give me a minute. So if you guys have any question, any feedback, please, we need your feedback on different ways you can improve on this section, on this our webinar. So you can just fill in your feedback. If you want us to talk about any topic or any topic you guys have interest in, please help us fill the feedback form so we can always know what are you guys' key interest. Also, let me just drop the link to our YouTube channel. So the entire recording will be made available on our YouTube channel. All this recording will definitely be made on our YouTube channel. So I think I have to stop recording now. So I'll stop recording.